This is why I save my money like a maniac, because life just likes to throw these curveballs at me, like this dental emergency that wiped out thousands of dollars of my savings. So I recently visited the dentist again. I'm not bitching about my dentist or anything, don't get me wrong, but I recently went to the dentist like last month and I spent around $1,000 to $2,000, I think about $2,000 on a couple of things, right? I needed to kind of remove my bottom braces and at the same time do a bit of polishing, a bit of cleaning, and also get retainers that I've not been wearing for the longest time. I also didn't wear it anymore even after I got the retainers, but everything in, it was actually quite expensive, almost $2,000. And then that was when I thought, okay, that should be the end of the whole dental nightmare, right? Okay, I was like, okay, bite the bullet, spend the $2,000 plus. Dental is a nightmare, but I'm over it, right? But that's not the end of the story. That's how things kind of went downhill. When I was biting something a little bit harder, I think 2 weeks back, then I realized, wow, there's a bit of pains, yeah? And then when I drink water as well, or rather when I drink cold stuff, I started to feel a little bit of this sensitivity in the teeth. I was like, oh my god, what the hell is happening? Like, why is this happening to me? I just spent $2,000 on my dental. Why is these things happening to me? Right? So that's why I visited my dentist yesterday. And uh, the dentist did a bit of an x-ray, she did a bit of tests. It was kind of cool. She put a bit of dry ice on my teeth as well. And that's when she asked me, oh, can you feel this? Can you feel that? And stuff like that. So a lot of objective testing that I do it with my patients as well as a physio, but I don't do it the same way. Of course, I don't use dry ice to touch people, right? Different professions use different things to do their sort of objective assessments and stuff. But basically, long story short, we did an x-ray and everything. And then she told me something that really, really surprised me was that I had a hairline fracture in one of my teeth, and that is kind of affecting some of the nerves inside the teeth. And that's why when the dry ice was being placed on one of my teeth, I couldn't feel the sort of the dry ice much because the nerve had been affected. And the biggest problem was that hairline fractures of the teeth don't recover by itself, not like the rest of the body, right? I deal with so many patients with hairline fractures before, and you know, if you give it a bit of time, your body basically repairs itself quite nicely, especially when it comes to your bones and everything. But apparently, the teeth doesn't work the same way. What in the world? It's my first time finding out as well. But you know, you learn everything as you're growing older as well. But with everything being said, she said that because I had a hairline fracture, I needed the root canal specialist to have a look at it. And then, this was the worst part, or rather, this was the most exciting part. After that, everything ended. It wasn't too expensive for the consultation, it was only $90. So then I went to the counter and I asked the receptionist, so when do I need to go for the root canal specialist appointment and how much is it going to be, right? So she said it was like, okay, I can book you for this week or next week. So that's very, very quick, very, very fast. And I get MC as well, so I get to rest, right? And the cost was estimated to be around 1.5k to 1.8k. And I was like, what in the world? I just spent 2,000 plus last month to fix things and to do fillers and retainers and stuff, and it still isn't fixed. And I need to spend another 1.5k to 1.8k. But things that can be solved with money, I'm okay. But I have a very low pain tolerance, so I was really, really scared when she told me, like a hairline fracture, I needed to like fix it, plus I needed to go through this treatment and it's going to be painful, right? She started telling me like, oh, you needed to cut off this tooth, you needed to remove the nerve, you needed to do this and then crowning and all these kind of other terms that I didn't understand. But one thing for sure I knew was that it's going to be painful. So I was like, oh my god, just if I could pay to get rid of all this pain, I would, but apparently I can't. So then I can only fix it how much or how expensive it is, and I have to pay it next month. Of course, one of the thoughts that came to me was that, oh, let me just ignore it for a while, right? It's not going to be a big problem because, okay lah, a bit painful over there, then just use the other side to bite lor, right? It's not going to be so much pain anyway. And if it's temperature sensitive, then I just don't drink anything cold, I just don't drink anything hot, then I'll be fine, right? I can basically ignore it for that, 1.5 to 1.8k and I won't have a problem. But, one of the things I've learned is that health is something that you cannot neglect, because you might be able to, in Singapore, what we call tahan, you can sort of endure and bear with the pain, but at what consequences, right? The dentists are telling me, oh, if bacteria goes in and then it starts decaying the tooth and everything, so it might possibly bring me a lot more pain in the future, and then I might, the whole op might be even bigger than before and I had to do so many more things. What if it decays and it kind of spreads to the other tooth? I don't know whether that's possible, but I'm just kind of imagining all these things. But you know, the health side of things, me being a healthcare professional, I cannot be so uh, hypocritical to tell my patients that, oh, you gotta do this, you gotta do that for your health, you gotta stop smoking, you gotta lose weight. And then here I am with the toothache. I'm like, oh, let me save up on this like 1.5k to 1.8k and not spend this money. So it's a bit hypocritical, right? And of course, it also bugs me a bit lah. So I just wanna get it settled over and done with. So, which kind of leads me to my point of this kind of dental emergencies and all these kind of things that's coming into your life, right? You cannot foresee them, but you need to make it a habit to prepare for them, right? And that's the kind of things that I kind of preach openly on my channel itself. But with that being said, it's going to wipe out a big chunk of my emergency funds, you know? And that's why I have the emergency funds in place. I think now I have about $1.5 to $2,000 after this month's sort of salary, and then I can have this emergency funds over there. Yeah, but that's why I say that the emergency funds are so important, because if you don't have all these things in place, then what if this kind of emergency happens to you? Then what do you do about it, right? You're just going to panic, you know, maybe dig into your savings. If you don't have any savings and you just invested every dollar like what I did last time, right? Then you just have no money and you have to sell your investments in order to afford something like this. Or this month's salary, everything will just go into the, you know, the dental emergency, and then you have nothing saved or nothing invested. And if this emergency started happening over and over and over again, let's say it happened to you, it happened to your kids, happened to your wife or your parents or whatever it is, then you're just going to pay for it non-stop if you don't have any money saved up for all these kind of sort of wet weather events, right? And that's why I think it's so important to have all this money kind of stored away as that base layer of insurance, because if all these are settled, then you don't have to be afraid or anxious about the future of not having enough money for any of these things, right? If you're able to really buffer for all these things, then your investments, all the secondary layers will come into play. You can very comfortably sort of save for your retirement, invest your money and make sure that money grows without you touching it. So the most important thing is you cannot touch the money in your investments for the short term, right? Because what if it's a bear market now and then the stocks are all down and then your emergencies happen? Then that's where you have to sell your stocks at a loss, and because you're selling at a loss just to fund all these things, you know? So then it just makes you lose all the faith in investments, and then you don't want to do anything about it anymore, and it just defeats the purpose, right? So of course, as I'm saying and bitching about my dental emergency, I'm trying to bring a little bit of value to you guys, is that you need to be aware or prepared that these things are going to happen, right? Life is going to happen at you, and you can either wait for it to happen to you or you can be prepared for it. And just like me, you know, even if, let's say, none of these emergencies hit you, that's fine, right? Then all this money that you're saved up, you can actually put it into for things in the future, like your housing, your wedding, your renovations, and all these kind of things. Or you can maybe even have the optionality of investing that money in the future if you're no longer using it for your emergency funds and you have enough emergency funds saved up along the way, you know? And I think the ultimate point is that you're going to have options and flexibility, right? Your life is not going to be affected. You're going to be able to continue living life, and you're just going to be able to make sure that everything is normal, everything can go as per plan. And your emotional state, yes, the mental clarity part, I reacted this way even when I have enough money, you know? And I have, you know, a good salary, I have good savings, I have good investments, and yet I still reacted the same way. I was like, oh my god, there's so much money. How am I going to afford it, right? I'm going to spend that money, that 1.5k to 1.8k on the dental emergency. And because I'm commission-based, I'm also going to lose the money that I'm going to be seeing patients on that day itself. So I'm going to be on MC the entire day. So I'm going to be losing like double whammy, you know? So I'll be losing like 3,000, maybe 2,000 plus, $3,000, that kind of thing. And that whole event is quite a big thing. It's quite a lot of money, and if you dump that into the stock market, you probably earn a lot of money from it. But you know, it is what it is. Life happens to you. And when that happens, you just got to be prepared for it, right? Even though I'm rambling about all these things, basically it's to ensure that your life stays the most balanced and the most peaceful, and it doesn't bring you any additional anxiety, right? Even I felt anxiety, but it's important to be able to process the anxiety moving forward and to think about how things are going to proceed from now onwards. Because for me, now my emergency funds are going to be wiped out, right? I'm going to start from zero again. And at this point, I guess it's the interesting part, because then I get to save up again, make a video like this again. Hopefully, I don't have to make a video like this again. No more emergencies and stuff like that. But probability-wise, you know, some things are going to happen along the way. But if we look into a much happier perspective, if I have these emergency funds, maybe if I wanted to go on an impromptu holiday, this would be something a bit more interesting. If I wanted to go to Australia, which is actually what I'm going to do next month, an impromptu holiday, I always have a travel fund saved up. So when I want to go on holiday, I will always have this money to spend. I don't have to be thrifty when I'm overseas. I love to splurge money when I'm overseas. Whatever I want to try, whatever I want to experience, whatever I want to eat, everything I just quickly buy as fast as I can because I can afford it, right? I saved up for rainy days like this because every other things I've screamed and saved in Singapore, and when I go overseas, I like to live like a king a little bit. But with that being said, that's how things are like as well. And yeah, it gives you options to be able to do all these things that you want to do. So hopefully this video has helped you in one way or another in terms of explaining my dental emergency and also why it's so important for you guys to have your savings in place. If you enjoyed this video here, then you'll probably enjoy this video here. Thanks for watching. Have an amazing day as usual, and I'll see you guys in the next few videos. Bye bye.